About 9 months ago, I uploaded my Fallout 3 Platinum video, and at the end of that video, I teased that I will eventually be attempting to earn all 22 DLC achievements. Well, the time has arrived, and today, I will be finally 100%ing Fallout 3, earning all the achievements from each of the 5 DLCs on the Xbox 360. This video will pick up directly after Fallout 3's story, so if you haven't watched my Fallout 3 Platinum video, go check that out. For continuity's sake, like I said, I decided to pick up the game directly where I left off last time, and start with the Broken Steel DLC, which includes 6 achievements, 3 of which I would end up saving for last, but we'll get to that later. Nonetheless, Broken Steel begins directly after the final story mission in Fallout 3. After being saved by the Brotherhood of Steel, following saving Project Purity, we learn from Scribe Rothschild that while we were in a coma for the last few weeks, the Enclave had continued their occupation across the Capital Wasteland, even after their HQ was destroyed and their forces were defeated at the Jefferson Memorial. Here he told us that the Brotherhood had found their new outpost, which was in the south. However, the only way we could get there was with the help of Liberty Prime. During this debriefing, Rothschild tasks us with eliminating any hostile forces, cutting off their transmission, and bringing back any data found at the outpost. So next I headed to an abandoned tunnel and met up with the squad as we prepared to attack the outpost. And our attack started smoothly. Liberty Prime was destroying generators and taking out a ton of Enclave enemies, and it looked as though this mission was going to be super easy. Prime even helped us gain entry into the building by smashing a hole through it, but then things turned south quick.
Warning! Warning! Red Chinese orbital strike imminent.
Chinese strike? Oh my god!
Catastrophic.
No, Liberty
System
Prime.
2, 6, 8, 2, 2,
No.
0, 9. I die.
No.
So that democracy
But we couldn't dwell at the fact that Liberty Prime was no longer with us, so we headed inside, took out the remaining Enclave enemies, secured the data, and returned back to Elder Lyons with the bad news.
With our primary weapon destroyed, we risk losing our momentum and jeopardizing the entire campaign. I'd like you to speak with Paladin Tristan. He's requested you for a special assignment, one that could prove vital to our success.
There we go. Death from above. That's for completing the first, mission DLC. Next, we are tasked with traveling to Olney Power Works, which, if you haven't played Fallout 3, is a location filled with Deathclaws. Here, we have to retrieve a pre-war experimental device called a Tesla coil, which would help the Brotherhood make an overpowered weapon called the Tesla cannon. But getting past the Deathclaws wouldn't be easy. That is, if I wasn't given a control scrambler, which allowed me to hijack Enclave-controlled Deathclaws. However, I couldn't figure out how to use it, so the Deathclaws were still a problem. But we eventually took them out and made our way into the factory. Here we ran into, yep, you guessed it, more Deathclaws. But after defeating them and some more Enclave soldiers, I made my way to the power room, stealing the Tesla coil, and returning back to the Brotherhood base, concluding the second mission. Hello.
You found a Tesla coil?
I did.
Excellent. I'll see to it that this reaches the scribes immediately.
Thank you. Shock value. That was a pretty fun quest. I mean, I had to fight some Deathclaws, but other than that, it was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time. With the Tesla cannon assembled, it was time to put an end to the Enclave once and for all, and destroy their base of operations, which was located on the DC Air Force Base. However, the only way to get there was through the White House presidential metro tunnels. This part was actually pretty cool, as with the help of a bunch of sentry bots, protectrons, and Mr. Gutsies, we killed a bunch of ghouls and took a train to the Air Force Base. Once we got to the surface, I acquired the Tesla cannon, which essentially one-shotted all of the Enclave defenses. However, there were a lot of them, which made the section relatively difficult. So difficult to the point where I ran out of healing items and had to stealthily navigate my way to the control tower, which wasn't too effective. But after a few deaths, I made my way to the control tower and lowered the ramp to the mobile base crawler, which is where the Enclave were firing their missiles from. So of course, we headed to the mobile base crawler. Next, we had to navigate through each of the levels, clearing out enemies and Enclave scientists along the way, until we made it to the top, where I found a terminal and called an orbital strike strike on the base, which would erase the Enclave forever. The game also gave other locations where I could have used the orbital strike, like the Citadel, Project Purity, Megaton, or Rivet City, but of course I made the noble decision to take out the Air Force Base. After, we got picked up in a vertibird, which took us to the control tower to watch the strike.
Here it comes. Oh my god, it's coming from the sky. Shout to him. Shout out to him. Shout to her. Where's Fox? Was Fox and Dog Meat, were they left on the platform? Imagine you just see Fox going across the airstrip. Where's he at though?
After this, we returned home and talked to Elder Lions, where the Broken Steel DLC concluded.
Now with the Enclave in ruins, and with you to thank for it, I'm almost at a complete loss for words. On behalf of the Brotherhood of Steel, and on behalf of the free people of this wasteland, I thank you.
Thank you. Who Dares wins. I like that. That was pretty fun. Very exciting. Very action-packed. Shout out to Fox. Without him, I would not be here. And Dog Meat.
Now that the Broken Steel story was over, I next decided to start the Operation Anchorage DLC, which, like Broken Steel, had to do with the Brotherhood of Steel. The DLC contains 4 achievements and begins after finding a group of Brotherhood outcasts fighting against super mutants. And after helping them clear out the mutants, they invited me into their base, not because I helped them, but because they saw that I had a Pit-Boy on. And on my way down to the base, things seemed a bit fishy.
Whoa.
Gave orders. It's that simple. How long are you gonna let the law screw us over?
I heard that.
All right, you. Keep your weapons holstered, your hands to yourself, and your mouth shut. Follow me.
Once I was in, I met Proctor McGraw, who informed me that the base is set up in the remains of a VSS facility, a pre-war compound of virtual strategic solutions, and the outcasts have been trying to unseal the door of the VSS armory, which they think contains advanced combat gear and weapons. However, the only way to unseal this door seems to be by surviving a military virtual reality simulation of Operation Anchorage, and the only way to enter the simulation is of course conveniently with the use of my Pit-Boy. So, of course, I agreed to enter the simulation and fight in the most iconic war of the Fallout universe, the Battle of Anchorage, set in the year 2077. Once I entered, I was greeted by a fellow soldier, Sergeant Montgomery, who told me that we are part of the US Paratrooper Infiltration Team, and that our objective is to take out the artillery guns located in this area. However, to do this, we must first infiltrate the Chinese artillery outpost silently or loudly.
Just watch yourself. Reds up here don't take prisoners. Good luck.
Aiding the outcasts. Very easy achievement. All I had to do was just start DLC.
Next, I slowly made my way up the cliffs, taking out red Chinese troops along the way until I met up with Montgomery. From here, we fought our way through the enemy lines until we found the artillery guns.
You're done. There we go, the Guns of Anchorage. That's for completing that second mission, which was actually pretty fun. It was very combat heavy, but what you expect when you go into a military VR simulation.
After getting a promotion to leader of the strike team, I was next tasked destroying the fuel tanks at the enemy Chimera Armor Depot, clearing a listening post of all Chinese presence, and disabling their pulse field before the final assault on the Chinese headquarters could occur. This part was actually pretty interesting, as I was given the option of deciding the loadout of my strike team, which included options such as infantryman, grenadier, missile unit, sniper, and even a Mr. Gutsy or sentry bot. However, I'm not going to lie, whichever option I selected didn't really matter, as they all seemed to die within a few shots. So it would essentially be up to me and Montgomery to complete this objective, and we honestly blew by the enemies and were able to complete these 3 objectives with ease.
That should be the last of them. And the last of the bombing runs on our guys, thanks to you. I'm gonna order our men back to the field HQ. See you there. That should be the last of them. And the last of the bombing runs on our guys, thanks to you. I'm gonna order our men back to the field HQ. See you there.
There we go, paving the way. It was pretty easy. No difficulties at all.
Now, all that was left was our final assault on the Chinese headquarters, which would win us the war once and for all. This mission felt like it was right out of a Call of Duty game as I fought my way through the trenches, dodging bullets and throwing grenades over sandbags. Eventually, I made my way out of the trenches and I joined the advance into the headquarters.
No!
你们会在空中的中国军队面看似的眼光。
No!
我绝不会当你们的俘虏。
Okay. Pretty intense here. All right. Oh. Wait.
That'll
Okay.
do, so.
All right. Oh.
Stand down.
After this, the simulation was over and the armory was finally open and I was granted with some of the best power armor in the game.
Oh, look at the power armor. Operation Anchorage. There we go. That's for completing the Anchorage DLC. I liked it. It was fun.
Now that Operation Anchorage was complete, I next started one of the more stranger DLCs in the Fallout franchise, Mothership Zeta. This DLC started after coming across a crashed UFO in the middle of nowhere and, of course, surprise surprise, then being abducted by aliens who then proceeded to conduct operations on me. However, I wasn't alone and woke up to another abductee named Samoa in the same cell who had a plan to break out of this alien prison. After staging a fight, we jumped the alien guards who came to break it up. Now that we were out of the cell, it was time to start working on a missable and collectible achievement called Alien Archavist, which required me to collect all 25 alien captive recordings across the entire ship. And like all collectible achievements, this was not the most exciting thing in the world, but after collecting the first few recordings, we found a child named Sally who was also in a cell, and after freeing her, she became our tour guide of the ship. So I followed her lead and we encountered some aliens who were surprisingly pretty tough to take out.
Hey guys, stop it. Stop it! I'm going to die and I'm dead.
But eventually I got past them and followed Sally to the engineering core, where I received my first achievement of the DLC.
Here we go. Not of this world. That's for completing the introductory quest of the Mothership Zeta DLC.
Here, Sally told us that the only way to escape would be by activating a teleporter that is outside of the ship, so we'd need a spacesuit. Thankfully, in the engineering core, there were a few prisoners, one of which was an astronaut, who were frozen in cryopods, so after releasing them, they agreed to join us in our escape. Well, kind of. Since the astronaut froze to death, it was up to me to go outside and save the day. But first I needed to destroy 3 of the ship's generators located in the hangar, cryolab, and robot assembly areas in order to gain access to the decompression chamber to proceed further. Along with destroying the 3 generators, I would also have to ensure I picked up all the recordings across the ship, so this was going to take a while.
Alright. Oh.
Scratch one generator machine. That ought to piss those aliens off.
Finally, after destroying the 3 generators and finding all the recordings in this area, it was time to enter space, and this was honestly pretty cool. So much so that I got a bit carried away.
Oh, this is pretty cool. Why can't I float, though? I heard you can get a cool death animation. You just kill yourself. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't even know that. No. That's funny. There we go. Among the stars. That's for, I guess, destroying all the generators and doing all the tasks. That was pretty cool.
After opening the teleporter and getting everyone through, we received a message from the captain of the ship. After realizing that he was probably threatening us, we decided that it would be best to find and disable the death ray, so that's what we did next. But of course, this was easier said than done, as just getting to the death ray was a challenge, as the aliens were so annoyingly powerful and hard to kill. But eventually I managed to get to the death ray, where I had to survive a few waves of aliens in order to destroy it. Now that the death ray was destroyed, all that was left was to take out the captain. But first I made sure to collect the final recordings, which granted me the achievement.
Wait, this should be the last one here. Right here. Here we go. Alien Archavist. Oh god. Oh god. Get me out of here now.
Now it was time to come face to face with the captain and defeat him once and for all. Yeah, I can't hype this up. It only took one shot to defeat him. But wait, there's more. Not only did we have to defeat the captain, we also had to engage in a spaceship battle with an enemy ship, which, I can't lie, was actually pretty cool. And after finally defeating it, I earned my final achievement of the DLC, concluding Mothership Zeta.
It's dead. This galaxy ain't big enough. It's a really fun mission, actually. It was very difficult. I think that was by far the hardest DLC so far. Cool though, I enjoyed it.
Now it's time to complete the next DLC, Point Lookout. This DLC, like the previous two, takes us to a brand new location, specifically an island of course called Point Lookout. However, in order to get there, I had to buy a ticket for 330 caps. Yeah, this DLC was not off to a good start, but before I paid my fare, I got pressed by a mother whose daughter had set off to Point Lookout a few weeks ago and was seemingly lost, and being the good vault dweller I was, I said I'd look for her. So now it was time to set off for Point Lookout. And once I got there, before starting the main quest, I wanted to get one thing out of the way first, the Bog Walker achievement, which required me to find every marked location on the map. And surprisingly, Point Lookout was a relatively large map for a DLC, so this took me about a half an hour.
Alright, only a few more locations left here. Alright, second to last, and then the last one is the lighthouse behind here. There we go, Bog Walker, that's for discovering all the locations here on Point Lookout.
Now that the Bog Walker achievement was out of the way, I began the first mission called the Local Favor, which led me to a location called the Calvert Mansion. Upon entering, things got active quick as a ghoul named Desmond and his dogs were fighting off tribals who were attacking the mansion. But before getting a chance to ask him about the lady's missing daughter, he tasked me with joining him and his dogs in the defense of the mansion. And just like the aliens, the tribals were also a pain to kill, and I died quite a lot. But after defending the final wave, Desmond told me that he saw a girl wandering around the mansion a while ago, but before I could follow that lead, he hired me to infiltrate the tribal base to see why they were attacking him. Following this, I got my next achievement.
Just try not to sprain a lobe while you're thinking about it. My time is short.
The local flavor. That was kinda tough.
Next, I made my way to the tribal base, and upon getting there, I was told the only way I could enter was after I collected a punga plant, which was located in the swamp. So after making my way to the swamp and into the grove, I fought off some swamp lurks and eventually found the punga tree, where after I interacted with the plant, I began to hallucinate and trip out.
Is that a bobblehead? Okay. What is that? That's like Radio Freedom. What is that? Is that a snake? I'm tripping out. Babies? Ooh. What is going on? Mata. Elder Lion. No, Moira. Megaton. Oh, it's him.
No, don't try and get up yet. You'll only hurt yourself.
What is going on?
And after getting back to the tribal base, I'm informed that the ritual worked and I'm now granted entry into the cathedral.
Here we go. Walking with the spirits.
Inside the cathedral, I found Nadine, the daughter of the woman I met in DC. Here, I try to convince her to come back home, to which she agrees, but not right away. She also informs me about Jackson, the leader of the tribe, who was hiding in a cave below the cathedral. Knowing this, I returned to Desmond, who told me to go to the cave and find out what Jackson wanted with the mansion. So that's where I headed next. Upon getting to the cave, I found Jackson, but it turns out he wasn't actually the leader, as he was getting directions from a hologram of a brain. It turns out that this brain had convinced the tribe to attack the mansion and take out Desmond, as he had a jamming device that was preventing the brain from broadcasting across the island. So after he saw that I was probably more capable of completing this job, the brain tasks me with finding a way to destroy the jamming device so he could expand the range of his psychic influence beyond the sea cave. So next, I head back to the mansion to inform Desmond, where he tells me that the brain is an old rival and that he needed to be stopped from spreading his influence across the island. So I was given the choice to side with the evil brain or Desmond, and of course I sided with Desmond, as I did have to lose half my brain to get to the cave after all. So next, Desmond tasked me with planting a cogwave jammer atop of the Ferris wheel, which would disrupt the brain's signal and reveal his location. So after doing this, all hell broke loose and I was ambushed by tribals, which again, I died quite a lot. But after getting past them, I returned to the mansion where this happened.
What the? Whoa! Why'd I flop like that? And why is it blowing up? Why did he blow it up?
After finding Desmond hiding in his panic room, he informed me that the brain was hiding in the nearby lighthouse. So, of course, we headed there next and took down Desmond's longtime rival once and for all.
At last, he's just ahead. There you are, you slippery bastard. At last. That's it, miss. Here and now. Let's try it.
There we go. A meeting of the mind. That's it.
The world is rid of that sniveling, disgusting, arrogant brain.
Now it's time for the final DLC, and probably the reason you all clicked on this video, the Pit. The Pit is by far one of the most iconic DLCs in the Fallout franchise, even so much so that it made a return in the most recent Fallout game, Fallout 76. Nonetheless, the DLC begins after listening to a radio distress signal from a runaway slave from the Pit named Werner, who after meeting up with him, informs us that he needs help in retrieving a cure for the mutations plaguing the city of Pittsburgh developed by the Pit's raider boss, Asher. However, actually getting to Pittsburgh wouldn't be the easiest thing, as Werner said that the raiders know him, so I would have to pretend to be a slave in order to get to the Pit. So next I found a group of slaves getting ready to be transported to the Pit, and after taking out the guard, I stole a slave outfit and made my way to the tunnel where Werner and I would travel to the Pit. Once we got there, Werner is quickly recognized by the guards, to which a fight breaks out, and after clearing out all the raiders, Werner informs me that he cannot go further, so now it was up to me to make it into the Pit alone. And I must admit, the setting of the Pit was by far the coolest of the DLCs in Fallout 3, and for a DLC that released in 2009, it aged pretty well, and the city landscape was definitely ahead of its time. But after crossing over the famous Pittsburgh Bridge, I made my way to the gates, where I officially entered the Pit.
There we go, into the Pit. I made it in.
Once I got in the city, I met a woman named Badia who knew of Werner's plans. Here she tells me that I needed to get a cure from the raider boss named Asher. While she was coming up with a way to get me into Asher's palace, she instructed me to go and gather steel ingots from the steel yard in order to fit in. So I next made my way to the yard to collect steel ingots, and this would actually be where I began to work on maybe the most tedious achievement in all of Fallout 3, Millworker. This achievement required me to find all 100 ingots scattered across the yard. Yep, this was definitely going to be as riveting as it sounded, so for the next hour I searched around the yard until I found all 100 ingots. Oh yeah, and there were trogs. A lot of trogs.
Here are the last three. I believe this is the rarest achievement in this game. 1, 2, 3. 100. There we go. Mill worker. That's for getting all 100 ingots. Didn't actually take too long at all. Wasn't too bad. Trog's were easy to kill, so can't complain.
Thankfully, I was rewarded with some great weapons and armor for collecting all the ingots, which would be helpful down the line. Next, I returned to Medea, who told me that Asher was about to open up the arena, which is how slaves could earn their freedom and how I could make my way into the palace. So, after listening to Asher's speech, I began my journey of becoming the greatest fighter of all time and stepped into the arena. And yeah, I absolutely dominated the competition.
Let's go. I think this dude's gonna stand a chance against me? Do you know who I am? He's not even gonna take a shot.
Well now, aren't you quite the
unsafe
scrapper?
working conditions.
Congratulations.
I really enjoyed that. That was fun.
After winning all of my fights, I was now considered free and could now make my way to the palace as Asher wanted to speak with me. Here, he tells me that in order to join the raiders, I had to kill Warner, who was planning a slave revolt, but I wasn't interested in joining and was only there for the cure. After inquiring about the cure, he tells me to speak with his wife to learn more, and this is when I learned that the cure was actually a newborn child. But I couldn't steal a baby just for the chance that it may be a cure for the plague. Just kidding. As soon as I learned that the baby was the cure, I picked that thing up and made my escape. Once I got outside, the guards must have heard I'd kidnapped the baby, so the pit turned into an all-out battlefield.
Phantom! Duke and Phantom? What? What? Duke and Phantom back to back is insane.
Once I escaped the guards, I returned to Medea, who told me that Warner was hiding in the steelyard and that he would take care of the baby. So I made my way to him next and dropped off the cure. Here, he informed me that it was time to begin the revolt. So next I had to turn off the lights in Uptown, which would allow the Trogs to overrun the city and take out all of the raider bosses. So after finding the light switch and letting the Trogs do all the work, I returned to Warner, concluding the Pit DLC.
You just bask in the glory, huh?
Thank you. Free labor. Alright, that's it for the Pit DLC.
Even though all the missions in each DLC were completed, there was still one more thing to do. Remember how I said earlier there were 3 achievements that I'd get at the end? Well, like in the base game of Fallout 3, the last 3 achievements I needed to 100% the game had to do with leveling up to level 30 with bad karma, neutral karma, and good karma. And if you don't know what this means, just check out my Fallout 3 video, as I had to do the same thing for 3 achievements in that one. So, for the next hour or so, I went around the map gaining XP until I finally reached level 30 and utilized 3 perks that would automatically change my karma to neutral and bad, which made this process a whole lot easier.
Here we go. This one. Make sure you definitely go evil. Devil. Alright, that's for getting to level 30 on bad karma. I'm gonna go neutral. True mortal. That's for, of course, getting to level 30 on neutral karma. And then for the final one, here we go. Messiah.
And those were all of Fallout 3's DLC achievements. Like I said in my Fallout 3 Platinum video, Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games, so going back and playing through the DLCs once again was a whole lot of fun. As I said earlier, I strongly believe that Fallout 3 was a game ahead of its time, and all of these DLCs aged super well and are still enjoyable 17 years later. Stay tuned for a New Vegas DLC video dropping very soon, but until then, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.